Hello, Jim here. Finding great companies to both invest in as well as sell options is really important. I use two tools primarily. One is Seeking Alpha, the other one is Barchart. So I'm going to talk about how I use them, how I look at fundamentals with using Seeking Alpha, and then with bar charts, I like to use technicals. I like to look at Bollinger Bands. I like to use their option chain. So I'm going to go into a bit of detail about each one of them and why they help me find great companies that I can both sell options on and invest in long term. So stay tuned. I think it's going to be well worth your while. Okay, the first of the two tools I want to talk about is Seeking Alpha. It's probably my favorite tool. I use it more than bar charts. I definitely use both, probably on a daily basis. But bar charts, to me, it just isn't, I don't know, it's not my primary. I'm a fundamentals person, so I really like to look at fundamentals. I'll use bar charts for looking at the Bollinger Band, and we'll talk about that at the end of the video and go over some of the things I really like about bar charts. But Seeking Alpha, it does have an area you can kind of look at different companies. It has top stocks. You can sort by different criteria, quant rating, which is kind of a rating averaged all together. So it's the growth, profitability, valuation, momentum, all the pieces kind of combined. So it's sorted originally by that, and it gives me a list of companies I can look at. I can determine if I like them. If I like them, then I can add them to my portfolio. I can look at what are the best growth companies, and it just something I've used. I found companies this way. I will also do it with top ETFs, similar situation, and I can get some ideas of some different ETFs to use. Whenever you open either one of these, the top stocks or the top ETFs, you can easily add them to your portfolio. You can also set up a stock screener, so add a little bit more detail. Let's see if that opens. So you can look at like top rated stocks. They've improved this recently, so it kind of gives you some basic screeners you can use to kind of get started. Let's see if we do top energy stocks, you can get a feel for the different top energy stocks, how they compare quant rating. So there's a lot there, and they keep improving it. So even some of this stuff is new. They didn't have it 6 months ago, or I think not even 3 months ago. You can also look at top REITs, get a feel for which are the best REITs. If you go with one, let's actually go back and we'll look at one of the top stocks. I believe the one at the very top is top value stocks, which I was probably a value investor longer than anything else. So I can pick one of these. Let me pick one I'm a little familiar with. Well, Mara, which I wouldn't think of them as a value stock. So there may be some issues. But Mara is a company I trade in a lot. Once I identify it, I can click. You can see I'm already following it, but you can click on it. You can easily add it to your portfolio. What do I like to look at when I come in here? I like to look at profitability. How are they doing profitability? Now, Mara is unique because it's a Bitcoin mining company, so it keeps a lot of its value in Bitcoins. But even here, you can see it's showing it as an A for profitability. I can look at growth. Growth looks good. I can see how they compare. They give you the sector medium. And this is for all the different factors that they're giving you. You can see how they've been doing over a 5-year period. What's the difference over the 5 years? How they compare to the sector. If you come to valuation, you can again see some of the same kind of information. You can see how does PE compare to others in their industry. You can see the PE is relatively small here compared to some of their competitors. I also like to come over here to capital structure. I can see, well, they're worth what, that's market cap 6.7. What's interesting is they have about that amount of Bitcoin. I think they're like 6.2, 6.3 billion in just in Bitcoin, not even considering cash. And they have a lot of assets, meaning they have data warehouses where they're creating the Bitcoin, I'm not sure, or mining the Bitcoin. and they're actually getting into some other things. They're going to be devoting some of their warehouses or data warehouses to AI. They also have solar farms, so they have quite a few assets. It's, to me, one of these companies I think is still way underpriced. I believe at some point, I mean, I also like to look at momentum. They don't have the highest momentum, so once they do get momentum, they're probably going to shoot through the roof. They don't pay a dividend, earnings. And again, their earnings are kind of unique. It's kind of hard to gauge how they're doing because, again, they're a mining company, a Bitcoin mining company. But for other companies, you can see, I mean, a lot of times you can see a really good pattern. Like if we go to AMD, you can see what I'm talking about. So I can go to AMD and I can look at the earnings estimate. So AMD is looking to have $3.90 for 25, over 6 for next year, for 27, 743, 926, 1096 or 1056. I know some news has come out about AMD. I still think they're a great buy, even at around 150, 157. I'm not so sure that Intel can get their act together to compete with the current MI350 chips or the MI400s, which are going to be coming out. I'm not sure, maybe second quarter next year, but they're going to compete with definitely with NVIDIA and a lot of companies because the chips will be a little bit less expensive. So I don't know if the changes related to NVIDIA investing in Intel will have an impact that quickly. It might take several years for that to, be a good investment or show some really good positive results from it. Financial, same thing. I like to come over here. I like to look at the balance sheet. I'll come down. I'll look at debt. I'll also look at, are they selling a lot more shares? And they are still selling shares, but not by a huge amount. They did decrease from these 2 years, but they're some point they're probably going to start buying back shares. I also like to look at valuation and capital structure. They do have quite a bit of cash profitability. One of the things I like is really good cash flow. So good cash flow from operations. Net income per employee looks good. So these are just some of the things. And again, when I'm happy with them, I'll click. I'll add them to my portfolio. Then I can come over in my portfolio and I go out every day, and when the market's open and I'm looking for an opportunity, I'll sort, what's the change percent. And these are all companies I'm interested in. So I'll see who's down. Like Cart, I've invested in. That's in Instacart. I use them for getting groceries. I don't want to go to the grocery store, so I can hire someone to do it for me. And it's worked out really well. I really like their interface. Elf, which I think is a beauty type company. But you can see who's down. You can determine is this like Zoom I really like to invest in. They were down big time on Friday. I've done really well with Zoom recently. But here I can also, sometimes I'll sort again by quant rating, just to see how the companies compare. And again, this is in my portfolio. So these are companies I've added. I will add companies at times that aren't profitable, but at some point they will be profitable, and I do think that they're worth being on my portfolio. But I won't trade in them until, again, they're making money. I don't trade in companies that don't make money. And I won't trade in companies that are really expensive. If they have a 50, 100, 200 PE, I typically won't invest in them. Like Palantir to me is too pricey. And there's a couple of other names that, have 100, 200, like even Tesla, I think has close to a 250, 300 PE. And it's limiting. I do have members who will trade in those, and they do quite well. It's something I've always kind of kept. It's a guideline I've had that I won't really move from, mainly because I've done well over the years. I don't need to make drastic changes. I'm not a speculator. I'm not a gambler. To me, it's slow and steady, making good income. Dell's another company I invest in, so I'll do that sometimes. I'll also look at return on capital. There's been some reports that if you invest in some of the best companies that have the highest return on capital, you can do really well. I'll also sort by return on assets. sometimes I'll do it on price. I might look to see, well, who's inexpensive that's down today. And then, again, if it's a company I want to deal with, I might, um, come over here and right click, and then I'll open it in a new tab and then go through some of the same stuff I talked about, like UNG, United States Natural Gas Fund, strong sell. Looks like they've been on a pretty bad downward trend. So I don't know that I would trade in them, but over time, and when I'm looking for some new companies, and since I've let a few things expire or be assigned recently, I have a lot more cash, so I may do some additional trades in companies I potentially want to own. So this one I would close, but if I find two or three, like I might say, well, I want to look at fresh, I might open it, then I'll come down and maybe I want to look at an LCP. Again, I might open it. I've done trades in Kins, which is a really small insurance company, but I've done pretty well with it. So this is really what I like about Seeking Alpha. This I do share with my members. I can export this list. I'll probably do that in the next couple of days, provide it to my membership so they don't have to enter this directly. You can import it using the CSV file that I'll create. I'll post it to my membership, both in Patreon and Discord, and then my members can use it. So next, let's talk about the other tool I like so much, which is bar charts. So stay tuned. Let's jump into that next. Okay, now here's bar charts. This is one of my favorite areas. This is on options. You can do most active options, and you can see you can sort the companies by who's the most active, and you can do this both for stocks as well as ETFs. So we can see Tesla was very active. They were up big time on Friday. Apple was too. Nvidia was up slightly. Intel was down, but this will give me an idea. Like I want to do a trade on Amazon. I want to own some Amazon. So if Amazon was down, I might look at doing a trade on them. MSTR, I prefer to trade on Mara versus MSTR. But here you can see AMD. I have a lot of trades on AMD. I may do more, especially if I can close some for cheap. But I'll look down. I'll look at who's negative. Meta also was down. Coinbase, JD. And if you have a membership, you can keep going. You can go way down. You can also sort these. You might want to see, well, who's down by the most. So I'll use this too. I'll also use, if you come up to options, there's this option screener. I've set up a screener. So this is something else I'll look at. And I'll look at, this is the put screener. You got to put it at filter view. And it'll give me a list. And then a lot of times I'll just click on bid, mid, and ask. I'll click on one of those just to see who's got the biggest bid. And some of these are a little bit odd because they're showing puts, but some of these are above what the value is. And if you don't like it, you can change the filters. You could say, well, return on equity, I only want to do high and very high. Maybe I only want to do really low debt. Maybe I only want to do strong max and top 100. Then I can run it again, and I should get more results. And you can keep playing with it. And here it's still sorting by the same numbers. So you can see here, I can see who's up, who's down. I can see who's has, a good company has strong financials. Also, like here's ANET, which is another stock I trade in. It was up pretty big, so I doubt I would make a trade on them. But if it's a down day and a particular stock I like is down, then this will give me some ideas. I can click on it. Like I've traded Logitech before. So if I click on it, it'll load it. Again, a lot of information here that you can use. I like to use the interactive chart. I'll use the Bollinger Band. And I can see where does it stand. So the Bollinger Band's up here. So I prefer to trade down here if I can, at the worst case in this area. So it's still a little bit pricey. I can see, well, is anything around 90, 93? A lot of the trades I do currently will be probably the November 21. 1017 is too soon. So I'd look at 1121. I would look at, I like to do 20 strikes here. I'll come down, I'll look, and I'll see, well, what is around a 15 to 20 delta? So at 95, so it's not that far off. And you're talking 95, 117, 140. But it's still a little bit pricier than what I want. I can also look at there's also a cheat sheet that you can use here, trying to figure out where it is. Sometimes these companies move things around. Historical data, option details, but there's usually a cheat sheet too. It may be under here, under performance reports, but you can see different criteria for them. It might also be a little bit lower here, but it's got a lot of information. It's got earnings. It's got what they recommend. Let's switch to a different company since Logitech's pretty pricey. Let's look at AMD. Let's look at its interactive chart. And I still like AMD, like I was saying before. So you see it's come down. It's getting pretty close to this middle of the range for the Bollinger Band. At the bottom, I have RSI. So you see RSI is getting a little bit better. It's still a little higher than I wanted to see. But I can come back down again. I would be looking at November. So I would do the option prices. And I would probably, let's go out to 1121. And AMD has a lot more expirations, so you have a lot more choices. Same thing with NVIDIA or any of the big boys. Same thing with Amazon. I would do 20 strikes. And I like to do a 15 delta. So I like to go around 45, 30 to 60 days out, which for this, we're right at 62. So tomorrow will be 61. So I'm looking at it for a 15 delta. Here's delta. And here's right at a 15 delta. So you're talking 282 to 288 at 130. And then if I come back and I look at that Bollinger Band, which is just on their interactive chart at 130, it's right around here. So it's not in a bad place. I probably would look to see if I could do a 120, but a 130 it isn't a bad play. I think they're going to rebound. I'm thinking sometime next year they're going to get all the way up to 200. Of course I could be wrong, but I'd like them. I think they're going to do really well. They also have here this whole investing section, which is nice. So you can see AI stocks, battery stocks, cannabis stocks, cyber security. So if we go to AI stocks, you can see some of the companies that they show here, and you can sort things, and you can look at different things. There's a lot here. There's a lot to learn with these tools. You can also set up a watch list here. I primarily use the watch list within Seeking Alpha. But I really like bar charts too. So I use both. I end up using both pretty much on a daily basis. Finally, I have watch list on Charles Schwab. This would also be on Thinkorswim, but I have my favorite stocks. And this is another scenario that I'll probably provide an updated version for my members. If I have favorite stocks, I'll go in here and I'll sort to see who's up and down. See where there may be some good opportunities. All of these are companies I've traded in, like Devon, Occidental Petroleum, Whirlpool. So, and then I'll also use favorite ETFs. And if I can't find anything, everything seems pricey. A lot of times I'll default to the ETFs. I'll come here and I'll look to see who potentially is worth maybe making a trade on. So like on Friday, ITB, I currently have a trade in ITB. That's the construction industry, I believe. Yeah. And then I've also done a lot of trades on XLE, which is the select sector energy. So this is something, again, I update. So both this favorite ETFs and favorite stocks I share with my membership. And I'm looking to probably share these again. So this is what I wanted to show you guys. Hopefully I use these three tools. I can usually find something. I make a trade or two, then I'm done for the day. I don't stay on the market all day. If I find two good trades where I make around 200 on each of them, I'm done for the day. Sometimes I'll come back on later in the day. I also look to see if I can close anything. I'll sort positions both in Schwab or Fidelity by profitability, and I'll look to see, is any of them over 65%, 70%, and can I close them early? So I do a lot of this, and at times if we have a correction, and I do think we might get a correction in October, I'll look at potentially buying some of these companies. So instead of just selling the cash secured puts, like if AMD drops majorly and gets down below 120, I might just buy a couple hundred shares. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys. Let me know what you think. How do you find good companies that have worked out really well? Please leave a comment. I typically will respond to the comment within 24, 48 hours. Also, if you have a stock or ETF you really like, share that in the comments. I've had members do that, or not members, subscribers do that before. And I usually will review it. I'll look at the fundamentals. I'll look at some details about it and see what I think about it. So, and as always, thanks for taking the time to watch, and I hope you have a wonderful day.